Listen, I used to think that dreaming you were drowning was at the tippy top of the worst nightmares you could have list. Until I stumbled across the actual reality of drowning your cells because of sleep.
What the hell did you just say?
And no, it's not because you were sleep deprived and followed your GPS into the local river, Michael. This happens to be a cellular phenomena that has nothing to do with water and everything to do with dysfunction. Dysfunction, might I add, that could be easily avoided. Let's see how. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftinbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today, we are back on the topic of nightly Z's, something that a large proportion of Americans and adults around the world have problems doing. With about 1/3 of us intelligent walking apes habitually getting 5 to 6 hours of nightly Z's instead of the recommended 7 to 8, ironically making us less intelligent walking apes and pretty grumpy ones. So we'll be exploring how this tiring habit sets the stage for the dysfunction responsible for the #1 longevity impacting disease across the world. No, not Swiftie syndrome, which ironically seems to be healing hearts everywhere. I should have prefaced that with negatively impacting. We are talking about the top longevity liability of heart disease, which is the #1 killing disease across many parts of the world, accounting for roughly 25% of total adult deaths. And as we've discussed in previous videos, all of which will be linked in the show notes below, there are several common factors that play into the development of this disease, two of which are inflammation and blood vessel or endothelial dysfunction, both being oh so suspiciously linked to chronic sleep deprivation through epidemiological research. So, we're gonna do what we do best and talk about it. Specifically seeing if the correlation holds water in this new, hot off the scientific streets, randomized control study which looks at this very relationship. So, without further ado, let's see what deprived sleep could possibly be drowning ourselves with. Who knows? It could be something good, but probably not. Researchers out of Columbia University sought to see what happens to cardiovascular function following periods of sleep deprivation, specifically looking into endothelial function and inflammation. To do this, they selected 24 healthy female participants who regularly got the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night and randomly assigned them to either a sleep restriction group or a control group for 12 weeks. The sleep restriction group was limited to 6.5 hours of sleep per night, doing this by delaying their normal bedtime by 1.5 hours, while the control group got the recommended 7.5 to 8.5 hours. Following the 12 weeks, there was a 6-week washout period. Then participants from each arm of the study crossed over to the other arm for an additional 12 weeks. So right off the bat, this was a pretty solid study design, being a randomized control crossover trial. Now, during this time, endothelial function was measured using flow-mediated dilation, a non-invasive way to measure blood vessel dilation, while oxidative stress and the antioxidant response were measured using blood samples. This is probably a good time to pause and explain the significance of these two markers. Our endothelium are the cells that make up our blood vessel walls. And for context, if we laid out all of our blood vessels in a straight line, it would stretch over 60,000 miles, or more than twice the distance around the whole Earth. Yeah, so there's a lot of them. And their function is critical to the health capacity and longevity of our cardiovascular system. Because when they're damaged, every other cell suffers. Because blood pressure is increased and blood flow is impaired, limiting key nutrients and compounds, like oxygen, from getting where they need to go, like the brain. Oxidative stress, on the other hand, is a driver of not only endothelial damage, but cellular damage in general. This is the biological scenario where the prevalence of unstable compounds derived from cellular metabolism, free radicals, overwhelm their naturally neutralizing counterparts, antioxidants, many times being driven by lifestyle factors which promote the dysfunction of mitochondria, or those little cellular power stations, which do a lot more. Something we'll talk about in just a little bit. Long story short, these are two major players in cardiovascular disease, and both potentially share this common modulator of sleep. But we'll have to get back to this study to confirm. So, what happened? Well, after just 6 weeks of sleep deprivation, researchers found that the endothelial cells lining the participants' blood vessel walls were flooded by damaging free radicals, while also observing significantly impaired flow-mediated dilation. Yikes. They observed that unlike well-rested cells, the sleep-restricted ones failed to activate enough of an antioxidant response to clear the destructive molecules, creating an environment of inflammation and dysfunction after just 6 weeks. Overall, researchers concluded that this data provides important insights into the mechanisms linking mild sleep restriction to increased cardiovascular risk in women, and that if individuals want to preserve and improve their cardiovascular function and thus longevity, prioritizing those Z's isn't a nice to have, it's a necessity. Yeah, makes you reconsider all those all-nighters, doesn't it? But also makes you beg another question. Why do free radicals go on a all-of-a-sudden rampage when we're sleep deprived? Welcome to the evidence-based speculation portion of the program. And everything in this story seems to track back to one of the most ancient parts of cellular life as we know it: the dysfunction of our critical energy and free radical producing organelles, which reside in just about every one of our trillions of cells by the hundreds. Mitochondria, and how they're impacted by suboptimal lifestyle habits. For example, when we get chronically shitty sleep, research has displayed that it alters the mitochondria's bioenergetic capacity, decreasing respiration efficiency, aka energy production, and increasing the expression of genes involved in the response to oxidative stress. But it doesn't just stop there. Another byproduct of chronically deprived sleep is a lifestyle habit which also damages mitochondria function: the increased cravings and consumption of ultra-processed foods. As poor sleep not only decreases our willpower, but also impairs the key reward circuitry that was built to stop us from overeating, as we explored in this deep dive here. Piling on to this tale of dysfunction, deprived sleep also comes with a decreased desire and ability to badonkadonk, aka exercise, which is one of the best things that we can do for our mitochondria health and function, creating a vicious, ever-growing cycle of dysfunction. And as we saw today, significantly increasing one's odds, likelihood, and probability of disease, including the #1 killer out there for adults: cardiovascular disease. Sleep is the bedrock for which all the other foundational components of health and longevity rise upon for a reason. Because every other healthy intervention that you spend your time and energy on will never reach its true potential without it. High quality, circadian aligned sleep, that is. Good news is, we break down all of the tips and strategies you need to start getting good sleep all across the How to Sleep playlist on this channel. And this realignment video here, which will be linked below, is a great place to start, as it breaks down the importance of going to bed and waking up at the same time each and every day, especially on the weekends, while giving yourself an 8-hour sleep opportunity between the hours of 8 p.m. and 10 a.m., getting natural light in the morning and limiting artificial light in the evening, eating during the day, fasting overnight, and making high-quality, nourishing, real whole food choices, being active, cutting off caffeine by noon, getting outside more, creating a sleep hygiene routine, and managing stress in this 24/7, ever-connected, constantly stimulating world. All things that are often overlooked as a byproduct of modern-day societal norms. And we wonder why us humans are experiencing a decrease in health span earlier and earlier in life. Because you're not you when you're chronically sleep deprived. And who wants to be a chronically tired, lethargic, low-energy subset of their true potential? Didn't think so. So take back control and prioritize hitting the hay already. Which brings me to my next question. Did we used to sleep in hay beds or in a barn? These old sayings will keep you busy. Until next week.